I want you to picture a scenario that I think is going to trigger a little bit of PTSD for anyone listening.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. So it's Tuesday morning. You're maybe 10 minutes away from a massive meeting. Could be a client pitch. Maybe it's a compliance audit.
High stakes.
Exactly. The stakes are very high. And you need one specific contract. You know it exists. You remember saving it. You even, remember the project made.
I can already feel my blood pressure rising just thinking about that.
Right. It's the worst feeling. So you go into your document management system, you type in the search terms, and you hit enter. And instead of that one beautiful contract, you are staring at a wall of 4,000 results.
Yeah, a complete nightmare.
You've got drafts from 3 years ago. You've got duplicates, emails from people who left the company in, 2019? Random memos that have literally nothing to do with anything. It's the digital equivalent of trying to find a needle in a stack of...
Well, other needles.
Yeah, a stack of other needles.
That is the perfect description. We call it the needle in a haystack problem, but honestly, haystack is almost too polite.
Right.
It's more like a landfill. And it's this crisis of clutter that practically every modern professional deals with every single day.
Exactly. And that really brings us to the core tension of today's deep dive. We have this instinct to hoard data. I do it. I think everyone does it.
Oh, absolutely.
We keep everything because we are terrified that the absolute second we delete something, we're going to need it 5 minutes later.
It's the classic just-in-case mentality.
Right. But on the flip side of that, we have this desperate need for speed. We need our systems to be snappy, to be efficient. And those two things, keeping everything forever and wanting instant access, they don't play nice together.
No, they don't.
They are fundamentally at war.
They really are. And usually the hoarding instinct wins out, which is exactly why our systems just get slower and slower every year.
Well, today we are looking at a solution that essentially claims to negotiate a peace treaty in that war. We are digging into the ISINKit archive solution.
Yeah, a very interesting piece of technology.
Right. And this is a tool developed by a company called MacroAgility. And the promise on paper is massive. They claim they can automate the cleaning of digital workspaces without breaking links, without losing data, and crucially, without driving your IT administrators to an early grave.
Which is a tall order.
Ugh.
And before we get into the mechanics of how it actually does that, we should probably establish who MacroAgility is.
Yeah, let's do that.
Because, in the world of legal tech and corporate compliance, you don't just hand the keys to your entire data kingdom over to some app that launched last week.
Fair point. So are these guys credible?
Very. They are heavy hitters in the imanage ecosystem. And for those who don't know, imanage is a document management system, or DMS, that a huge chunk of the legal and corporate world practically runs on.
Right, it's everywhere.
It is. And MacroAgility, they specialize in the plumbing of that system. So delivery, integration, custom development. Their mission statement is about providing inventive solutions firms can depend on. In this very specific niche, dependable is literally the only metric that matters.
Okay, so they know the plumbing. Let's talk about the clog. The source material we're looking at today leans heavily on this concept of optimized document management, which sounds great, but what does it actually mean?
Right.
Because to me, the word archiving usually feels like throwing my files into a dark dungeon where I will never, ever find them again.
And that is exactly why people don't archive. That fear is the main barrier. But let's look at the philosophy here. The core idea is rigorously distinguishing between active content and archived content.
Okay.
Think about your physical office for a second. You have the papers on your desk that you are working on right now.
Right, my active stuff.
Exactly, that's your active library. Then you have the files from a case that closed, say, 5 years ago. If you keep those 5-year-old files sitting right on your desk, piled on top of your current work, you just can't function.
So by moving the old stuff out, you aren't just saving space. You're actually making the new stuff easier to find.
Precisely. It's entirely about the signal-to-noise ratio. When you run a search in a system like imanage, the search engine has to index and crawl through everything in that library.
Right.
So if your library is 90% obsolete data, the search engine is working 10 times harder than it needs to, it's slower, and your results are just cluttered with junk.
The needles.
Exactly, the other needles. If you remove the noise, the archived material, the signal becomes incredibly clear. You find what you need faster because the system isn't wading through sludge.
Okay, that makes perfect sense for speed.
Yeah.
But I have to imagine there's a cost angle here too, right? Like storage isn't free, but is it really expensive enough to justify setting up a whole separate archiving system?
When you're talking about enterprise scale,
Yeah.
absolutely. The source highlights decreasing storage cost as a major, major benefit.
How so?
Think of it this way. You have Tier 1 storage. This is your high-performance, solid-state, super-fast drive. It is very expensive, and that's exactly where your active files should live. Then you have Tier 2, or archival storage. That's slower, it's cheaper, and it's meant for cold data.
Ah, I see. So right now, most companies are paying Tier 1 prices to store files that literally nobody has looked at since the Obama administration.
Exactly. They're parking a rusted-out car in a luxury penthouse garage. By archiving, you move the junk to the cheaper parking lot, and you keep the penthouse open for the Ferraris, the active files you use every single day.
Okay, I'm with you on the logic. You save money, you speed up the search, but now I have to play devil's advocate.
Go for it.
Because I'm listening to this and I'm thinking, great, but I'm still not going to do it.
I know.
Because of the fear. The main reason I don't clean up my digital files is that I am terrified, and I mean genuinely terrified, that I'm going to break something.
Yes.
I have shortcuts on my desktop. I have hyperlinks inside of spreadsheets that point to other documents. I have cross-references in legal briefs. If I move a file to an archive, lodging dictates that the link breaks. I get a 404 not found error, and I look like an idiot in front of a client.
That is the #1 objection. That fear of breaking the workflow stopped digital hygiene completely dead in its tracks. And this is exactly where iSyncKit makes its biggest, boldest claim.
Right, the uninterrupted content accessibility.
Exactly. It sounds like a magic trick, but it's the absolute linchpin of the whole solution. The source material is very specific about this. It says the system retains access to documents via existing links post-migration.
Okay, pause. I really need you to explain how that is possible. If I move a file from library A to library B, the physical path changes. How does the link still work? Is it leaving behind like a stub or a hidden shortcut?
It's actually deeper than a shortcut. In the iManage ecosystem, documents are identified by something called a docID. It's a unique numeric identifier.
Okay.
What iSyncKit is doing is essentially updating the pointer for that ID. So even though the document physically moves over to an archive library, the overall system knows that that specific doc ID has relocated.
So the unique ID travels with the document.
Yeah. Exactly. So let's go back to your nightmare scenario.
Yeah.
You're a lawyer. 6 months ago, you dragged a document shortcut onto your desktop because you use it all the time.
Right.
Last night, the IT team ran iSyncKit and archived that document because the case is technically closed. This morning, you come in, you click that desktop shortcut.
And I'm bracing myself for an error message.
But you don't get one. The document just opens. The system resolves the new location in the background instantaneously.
Yeah.
You, the user, don't even need to know it was archived.
That's actually huge because it means you don't have to retrain the users. You don't have to send out an all-staff memo saying, hey, everyone, your links are going to break on Friday.
Correct. That's what they mean by seamless workflows. The user doesn't need to know where the file sits, whether it's in the expensive active library or the cheap archive library.
They just click it.
They just need to know that when they click the reference in their spreadsheet, the document pops up. It completely removes the friction and the penalty for archiving.
Okay, I'm starting to see why this is a big deal, but let's go a little deeper under the hood. I want to talk about the migration itself, because moving files sounds easy until you actually try to do it with terabytes of highly sensitive corporate data.
Oh, if it were easy, IT admins would be a lot happier and a lot more rested.
Right, so what happens to the data about the data? The metadata, I'm thinking about a legal context here specifically. If I move a file in a normal system, usually the date created field updates to today, and the author updates to me, the person who moved it.
In a basic Windows environment, yes. And in a legal or corporate compliance environment, that is an absolute disaster. It's called spoliation of evidence.
Spoliation. That sounds bad.
It's very bad. Imagine you're in court. You need to definitively prove a contract was drafted by John Smith on February 1st, 2020.
Okay.
But because your IT guy moved the file to an archive last week, the metadata now says it was created by admin on Tuesday. You have just destroyed the chain of custody. You can't prove the document's history anymore.
Oh, wow. So how does iSyncKit handle this? Because if it breaks the metadata, the tool is completely useless for law firms.
They are painfully aware of this. The source details emphasize metadata preservation as a core competency. It meticulously maintains the document metadata, the properties, and the permissions during the transfer. It preserves the literal DNA of the document.
Okay, but here's a tricky one. What about ghost users?
Ah, yes.
Let's say John Smith, the guy who wrote that contract in 2020, let's say he left the firm 2 years ago. He's not in the active user directory anymore. If I try to move his files today, won't the system freak out because it can't find John Smith?
That is a classic migration headache. Usually, systems default to assigning those orphan files to the administrator, which again ruins the historical record.
Yeah.
But iSyncKit has a specific feature just for this.
What does it do?
The technical specs mention it automatically replicates missing metadata, users, and groups in the destination library.
Wait, it recreates the user.
In the context of the archive, yes. It checks the destination, sees that John Smith doesn't exist over there, and creates a dummy user entry for him to ensure the file remains perfectly tagged to him.
That's smart.
It's preserving the historical context. It's not just moving the file, it's moving the entire history of the file.
That is incredibly thorough. It's the difference between tossing a file in a cardboard box and carefully filing it away with its original label perfectly intact.
Exactly. And that's exactly why it's trusted for strict compliance.
All right, let's talk about the operational side of things. I'm picturing the IT administrator again. We've told them the links won't break and the metadata is safe, but they still have to actually do the migration. Is this a situation where they have to come in on a Saturday, hit start, and just pray the internet doesn't go out?
That is the old way. And frankly, that's why migrations rarely happen. Nobody wants to ruin their weekend babysitting a progress bar. iSyncKit is heavily built around automation. The source talks about this set it and forget it capability.
I have to say, I am always skeptical of set it and forget it. In my experience, it usually means set it and regret it.
That's a very healthy skepticism.
Yeah.
But in this case, it's really about robust scheduling. You can configure the system to run migrations based on specific criteria. Say, move anything that hasn't been touched for 3 years.
Okay.
And you schedule it to run at 2:20 a.m. on a Sunday.
So minimal disruption to the firm's daily operations.
Right. But to address your skepticism directly, what happens if something goes wrong at 2:30 a.m.? What if the server blips?
Exactly. Do I wake up to a corrupted database where half the files are moved and half are just lost in the ether?
That's the nightmare scenario for any admin. But iSyncKit includes what they call flexible and reliable transfer options, specifically highlighting a rollback option.
A rollback, so like a giant undo button.
Yes, it treats the migration effectively like a secure transaction. If a transfer error occurs, say a network glitch or a file lock, you aren't left with a corrupted mess. You can revert the entire process to the state it was in right before it started.
Oh, that's a relief.
Or you can proceed with a partial migration if that's safer. But the absolute key takeaway is that you don't lose data. It's a massive safety net for the IT admin.
That connects right back to the idea of professional confidence that we mentioned in the intro. If I know I have a reliable undo button, I am much more likely to actually run the cleanup process.
Precisely. It significantly lowers the blood pressure of the entire IT department.
Speaking of departments, let's get a bit more specific about who this is really for. We've mentioned companies broadly, but the source material breaks down some specific use cases. Who is waking up in the morning and thinking, I need iSyncKit right now?
There are 3 main tribes here. The first, and probably the most obvious one, is legal firms and corporate legal departments.
Because they are drowning in paper.
Drowning in paper, yes, but also bound by incredibly strict rules.
Yeah.
Think about a huge law firm closing a massive merger. We're talking millions of documents.
Right.
Once that deal's officially done, they can't just delete the files. That's illegal. But they also can't keep them cluttering up the active workspace for the next big deal. They need a way to archive that entire workspace, the folders, the emails, the drafts, completely intact.
So it's about compliance for them.
Entirely. For them, iSyncKit isn't just a handy utility. It's a compliance engine. They need to know for a fact that 10 years from now, the chain of custody is unbroken.
Right. Because the stakes are literal legal liability.
Exactly. Now, the second group is large corporations. Think your standard Fortune 500 companies.
That's their main pain point.
Scale and performance. When you have 50,000 employees all saving to the exact same system, the database gets bloated so fast.
I can imagine.
Users start complaining that search is taking forever, or that just opening a basic folder takes 10 seconds. That absolutely kills company productivity. So they use iSyncKit to skim off the top, archiving the old stuff to keep the engine running blazing fast for the active users. It's about keeping the corporate machine oiled.
Makes sense. And the third group?
The unsung heroes of the office, IT and system administrators.
The ones we keep worrying about.
Yes, their pain is purely operational. They are the ones tasked with governance, which is really just a fancy corporate word for keep things organized.
Right.
Without a tool like this, they are trying to enforce rules manually. They are sending angry all-staff emails asking people to please delete old files. It's a completely losing battle. With iSyncIt, they can actually automate the governance. They can ensure structured data management without having to fight with the users. It gives them their control back.
And just a quick technical note for the listeners out there, the source mentions this works for iManage work on both cloud and on-premise systems.
That is a crucial detail. A lot of firms are in a hybrid state right now. They have some stuff migrating to the cloud, but some highly sensitive stuff still sitting on servers in the basement.
Right, the transition phase.
Exactly. iSyncIt is platform agnostic within that specific ecosystem. It effectively bridges the gap between the basement and the cloud.
Okay, let's zoom out for a second to wrap this up. We've looked at the problem, right? The digital landfill.
The haystack.
The haystack. And we've looked at the solution. A tool that moves the hay without losing the needles, keeps the links working seamlessly via Dockety, and preserves the literal metadata DNA of every file.
And does it all while you sleep on a Sunday morning.
Right. So if we strip away all the marketing speak, what is the real core value proposition here?
It's basically a trifecta. You get zero downtime because of the link preservation. You get massive risk mitigation because of the metadata preservation. And you get cost efficiency because of the tiered storage management.
It hits every angle.
It does. It solves the everyday user's problem of, I can't find anything. It solves the CFO's problem of storage is too expensive. And it solves the general counsel's problem of, we need to keep this for court.
It really does come back to that psychological shift. A messy desk, whether it's digital or physical, it makes you feel scattered. It makes you entirely reactive. A clean system where you know exactly where everything is makes you feel in control.
Absolutely. There's a psychological concept called cognitive load. When you look at a computer screen full of clutter, your brain actually has to work extra hard to ignore the irrelevant stuff. That takes real energy.
Wow, yeah.
By automating the cleanup, iSyncIt is essentially reducing the cognitive load for every single employee in the firm. It's not just cleaning hard drives, it's clearing heads.
I love that. Not just cleaning hard drives, clearing heads. So here's my final thought for you listening right now. I want you to genuinely look at your own digital workspace today. How many files in your recent documents list are actually from this year?
I'm guessing probably not many.
Right. If you could snap your fingers and move 80% of your old files into a searchable, totally safe archive without breaking a single link, how much faster would you work tomorrow? How much lighter would hitting that search button feel?
It's a very compelling question. The technology is clearly there to do it. The only thing left is to just let go of the clutter.
And on that note, we will let you get back to your hopefully a little cleaner digital workspace. Thanks for diving in with us today.
Always a pleasure.
See you on the next Deep Dive.